Welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. I'm Carolyn Shearlock, here with tips, reviews, and how-tos for your cruising adventure. This episode is sponsored by the Boat Galley Guide to Storing Food Without Refrigeration. Have truly great meals with fresh produce, meat, butter, cheese, eggs, and more, even if you don't have a refrigerator or it's tiny. This ebook is now on sale for just $7. Get an extra $1 off with the coupon code PODCAST. Slow down, slow down. So, it's time to start buying gear for your new boat. For most people, galley gear is one of the first things to buy so that you can use the boat even for a full day. So let's start there. When buying galley equipment, there are at least 13 important points to consider before making a purchase. Frankly, most of these issues aren't confined to buying galley equipment. They apply to buying anything for the boat. And note, things don't have to be labeled marine to work well on a boat. Lots of camping, RV, and just plain home gear does well if chosen wisely. And the fact that something is labeled marine is not at all a guarantee it will work well. I ask myself the following questions when thinking about buying something. I'll hit on about half the items this time and the rest next time. First is, do I really need it? With limited space aboard all but the largest boats, think about whether you use something often enough to justify the storage space. For example, I use a wok only a couple of times a year. I can make those recipes in a skillet. I have a friend, however, who uses a wok 4 or 5 times a week, and to her it's essential to have one. Next question, can I use it in the space I have available? Workspace and cooking space is generally smaller in a galley than in a house kitchen. Counters and drawers aren't as deep, the sink isn't as large, the oven and stovetop are usually smaller. The cubby for your dishes may not be large enough for some of the supersized plates sold. I learned to measure any space before I went to the store. Then, can I stow it? Everything aboard has to stow securely whenever the boat moves. Will it fit in the locker space available? Will it need anything special to keep from breaking or scratching? Another big issue can be if something is likely to be noisy when stored, and what I can do to keep it quiet, such as padding it with pieces of fleece or bubble wrap. Then, will it work when I need it to? Things that don't do when they should are enough of an annoyance when living ashore, but are close to a catastrophe if you're 100 miles or more from a replacement. To me, working when it needs to includes things like can openers not breaking, as well as food storage containers that don't leak with the motion of the boat. When I'm buying something I'm unfamiliar with, I look for items with a number of reviews by real-life users and pay close attention to the poor reviews. I want to know why they dislike the product. Then I can decide if it will be a problem for me too. Unfortunately, it's hard to find reviews that talk about using kitchen equipment on a boat. And that was one of the reasons that I started writing the Boat Galley, to have specific recommendations for boats. Next, is it break resistant, rust resistant, non-slip? These are all important considerations in the marine environment. It's often cheaper in the long run to buy higher quality initially. But I don't just blindly purchase or recommend higher cost alternatives on the assumption it's better, but I look at factors such as break and scratch resistance, rust resistance, tendency to tip over, and the ability to hold on to something as the boat moves. It's important to note that not all stainless is equally rust resistant. 3 different grades are commonly used in cooking ware. 18/10 is the best and has the best rust resistance, particularly in a saltwater environment. 18/8 isn't a bad choice, but it may rust a little bit. Watch out though for 18/0. It is very likely to rust and pit around saltwater or even just salt air. Cleanability is another factor to consider. Everything has to be washed by hand on a boat. It's hard to clean things with lots of nooks and crannies, and it takes more water too. And water is precious on a boat. Until next time then. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, please be sure to subscribe in your podcast app. Just search for the Boat Galley Podcast. And reviews are always appreciated. Until next time, then.
Slow down, slow down.